Over the past year I've spoken about most of the Tekken games, mostly the numbered entries, but there's still loads to speak about. Ever since the release of Tekken 3 there have been multiple spin-offs, ports and some strange additions to the series, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at most of them. Now because there are so many of them, these won't really be reviews, more like overviews of each game and what they've added to the series. I'm not going to be talking about games like Street Fighter Cross Tekken or Pokken Tournament however, as these aren't really Tekken games, just games with Tekken elements. With all that being said, let's take a look back at the weird and wonderful ports and spin-offs in the Tekken franchise. First up is probably the most unique game I'll be talking about today. It's Tekken Card Challenge, released in 1999 on the wonderswan. Yeah, I understand you're a bit confused about what the hell a wonderswan is. It sounds like a competitor to the Leapfrog, but it's a handheld mainly released on the Japanese market. It wasn't the most powerful device in the world, and certainly wasn't going to compete with what Nintendo had to offer. It was discontinued after only 4 years, and that's what makes it one of the most unique handheld devices out there. Due to it being a lot less powerful, means that the games it could run weren't the most advanced for the time. So how did they get Tekken running on the thing? Well, that's the catch. This isn't really a Tekken game at all. It resembles a Pokémon game, which is quite funny seeing as we have Pokken Tournament, which mixes Tekken gameplay with Pokémon characters. So imagine this is just the other way around. Now there's just one problem when we play in this game. It's that the whole thing is in Japanese, and seeing as I struggle with the English language most of the time, this was going to be difficult, but I still gave it a go. And from what I gathered, is you travel across the level similar to Pokemon, but also collecting cards to earn new moves. You then use these moves against enemies you come across in the level, and I think the aim is to land on the highest number in a sort of top trumps way to beat your opponent. Again, I'm not too sure what the objective is or how you progress, but from what I've played it seems like a great concept. It's just a shame we never got an English translation. I'm going to rank most of these games out of 10, and this is quite a hard one to rank seeing as I haven't really been able to fully play it, so I'm going to give it a generous 6.5 out of 10 just based on the unique premise of the game alone. What are you doing in here? Oh, you're right. I've completed that Tekken Card Challenge game on the wonderswan. Well, how have you done that? It's in Japanese. I'm fluent in Japanese. You've never asked. Go on then, prove it. How am I supposed to prove that I am fluent in Japanese if you don't speak it? You silly little boy. Fair point. What did you think of it then? Yeah, it was alright. I was expecting a bit more mustard, but there wasn't any. Why would there be mustard? Do you know what? Never mind. Can you leave now though? Because I've got stuff to do. I'm staying here. I'm not moving. Do you know what? I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave now. I don't want any part of this. I'll leave you to it. Now on to a game I know very well, Tekken Advance, for well, the Game Boy Advance. I love the ports that came out on the Game Boy Advance because developers really tried to bring a lot of what you'd see in the console version over to the small and way less powerful handheld. It ran on AA batteries for crying out loud, but games like Max Payne, Need for Speed Underground and even Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance tried to bring as much as they could over to the GBA, and Tekken Advance is no different. Obviously it hasn't aged all that well and there isn't really any reason to go back and play it, but saying all that, it's still a fun little piece of Tekken history. It released in 2001 and seems to be a port of Tekken 3. It comes with 9 characters and one unlockable one, with them being some of the series favourites you'd expect, like Law, King, Paul, Nina, Yoshimitsu and of course Jin and Heihachi. It also comes with a few modes like Time Attack, Survival and even Tag Battle, which for some reason they've decided to flex on Tag Tournament by letting you have 3 fighters to swap between rather than just the normal 2. There's no endings to unlock, no real need to play through it with all the characters except to unlock Heihachi, and to be honest with you, the gameplay isn't all that great either. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. This is a device which again ran on AA batteries and only had 2 face buttons, so it's literally impossible to bring over the traditional Tekken experience over to the console. But what they have done is made a pretty good port for what at the time was the best portable console out there, and packed with the characters, moves, stages and even music you expect from the series. Well, they tried the music at least. I'm going to have to give Tekken Advance a 7 out of 10. It's not an amazing game, but in the context of when it released and what it was released on, I think they did a perfect job to make the Tekken experience portable. Now to move on to a game that I've already spoken about in depth. That is of course Tekken Dark Resurrection. Now I'm not going to speak about it much in this video, as I've already made a full video on the game, which is currently my most viewed video on the channel. So if you want to know more about that game in particular, I'll leave a link down below for you to check it out. And also, if you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe, as I do a lot of videos like this, and have built up quite a few videos in the past year, similar to this one. Plus, I do post on here fairly regularly to keep everyone up to date with the upcoming videos, and it's the best place to find out when the next video is coming. Anyway, all I'm going to say about Tekken Dark Resurrection is that it's still the best port of the series there has ever been, and possibly ever will be. It's basically Tekken 5 on the go, with little to no compromise, and it's still a game I love to go back to. So it's no surprise I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10, because, come on, it's Tekken Dark Resurrection. The next game I'm going to talk about isn't really a Tekken game at all, but I thought I should include it as it's probably the most unique of all the spin-offs. It's called Death by Degrees, or Tekken's Nina Williams in Death by Degrees, if we use its full government name. I've never played this game until recording for this video, and I'll be honest, I still don't know what it's trying to be. It has a lot of elements from a lot of different games. From first seeing it, I assumed it was going to be like Metal Gear Solid, considering the character of Nina is sort of a stealthy assassin, but it has elements like the fixed camera angles you see in Resident Evil games, a few beat 'em up elements like you see in the Yakuza games, and not much to do with Tekken at all. Like I said, I've only played a little bit of it for this video, but I will say it's quite interesting. It's similar to what the Mortal Kombat series did, with Special Forces and Shaolin monks, but in this case, way more removed from the series it's based on. I like it, and after looking online it seems the game has quite a bit of a cult following, and it's not hard to see why. It's such a unique game, and definitely has that PS2 aesthetic. Like I said, I've never played it before this week, but I'm definitely going to revisit it at some point. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, considering I've only played a tiny bit, but from what I've played, it seems very promising. Another port released on the PSP was Tekken 6 in 2009. I know in the past I haven't really been the biggest fan of Tekken 6, but honestly I don't hate the game, and to be honest the PSP version is my favourite. It's an interesting port because although it has all the stages, characters and mechanics you see in the console version, it feels like a PS2 game, and that's not a bad thing. Again, I spoke about Tekken 6 in its own video, so I'm not going to go in depth with this game, but what I'll say is it's more of the same of what we saw in Dark Resurrection, bringing over the Tekken gameplay perfectly to the portable console, with little to no sacrifices made. Really the only thing missing from the console version is Scenario Campaign, which isn't a massive loss. I'm going to give Tekken 6 on the PSP an 8 out of 10. It's a great game and very similar to Dark Resurrection, but the only thing that lets it down is the fact that it's, well, Tekken 6. Tekken 6 on the PSP wasn't the only port of that game to release. There was in fact another one, which released on mobile phones in 2010, called Tekken Resolute. And I know what you're thinking, I bet the mobile version wasn't that bad, but I'm not talking about this type of mobile game. I'm talking about this type of mobile game. It's so mad that nowadays you can play games like Resident Evil 8 natively on an iPhone. When I was growing up, I had to put up with games like this to keep me entertained. Now I have literally put my PC and phone on the line by trying to find a download for this game, and after going on some not so legitimate websites, I've decided to stop my search and try and talk from memory, and also gameplay I've watched online. So what have I found? Well, it's a Java game, and like most Java tie-in games, it's a pile of shit. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of these were some sort of money laundering scheme, because every franchise had one, and they were all shite. I am kinda gutted I haven't had the chance to go back and play it, considering it had a story mode and Tekken Force mode, but then again, when the gameplay looks like this, maybe I've dodged a bullet. I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 10, just because I'm feeling generous. Now from a game I can't find to a game I've never owned, it's time to talk about Tekken Hybrid, which released on the PS3 in 2011. It's basically a glorified demo for Tekken Tag 2, it includes a preview of the game, a full Tekken movie, and also a HD remaster of Tekken Tag 1, which is probably the most interesting thing about this game, seeing as the HD version has never been re-released and has only ever appeared in this game. Like I said before, I've never owned this game and probably never will, but I have experienced all its components in different ways, so for that reason, I'll give it a 6 out of 10, considering I've never actually owned this. There's There's a bit of a pattern when it comes to the mobile game. It's really hard to get your hands on them nowadays, especially this one. It's Tekken Bowl, which released on iOS in 2011, and it is exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's Tekken Bowl, nothing else. Now, I did own this back when it was released, and I'm sure it was free, and if that's the case, then I can't really complain too much about it. Honestly, it's just a bowling minigame, there's no hidden surprises, so I'm just going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's just Tekken Bowl, that's it. It's time to talk about the real last port we'd see for a portable console, and that's Tekken 3D Prime Edition for the 3DS, which released in 2012, and it's a real shame that this was the last one because it's not that great, not in terms of the gameplay or visuals, but in just terms of content that you actually get. There's no story mode, no minigames, just survival and arcade. There's no reason to replay for it, honestly, it gets a bit boring. There were some decent fighting games released on the 3DS, like Dead or Alive Dimensions and Street Fighter 4, and honestly, Tekken Prime Edition just lacks any sort of variety in its game to compete with the other games on the console. I mean, Dead or Alive had a full story mode. You do get the same movie you got in the Tekken Hybrid bundle, Tekken Blood Vengeance, which is how I first ever watched this movie. I watched the whole last movie on the 3DS. It's honestly a surprise I'm not blind. When it comes to Tekken Prime Edition, I really want to like it because they really tried to bring over the Tekken experience to the weaker of the two handhelds out at the time. But missing out on different modes and a sense of progression for a story mode just lets it down massively, so for that reason I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. One of the last proper Tekken games I'm going to talk about is Tekken Revolution. It was a free to play game released on the PS3, and just like a lot of later games, it's an absolute pain in the arse to try and play nowadays. I do remember playing it when I was younger, and it was my first experience of Tekken Online. I remember there being some sort of upgrade system, and gameplay wise being very similar to Tekken Tag 2. It's a shame I can't really speak about it much due to not being able to go back and play it, but yeah, it was virtually Tekken Tag 2 but free to play. There wasn't any arcade mode with character endings or any other bonus modes, it was just meant for online, but it was free without any of those obnoxious season pass shite you see in modern games. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it was free Tekken. Can't get any better than that. Now, the last three games I'm going to talk about all together because sadly none of them can no longer be played or even found on the app or Google Play Store. These being Tekken Card Tournament, Tekken Arena and Tekken Mobile. Obviously they are all mobile games, but all offered something completely different. First up was Tekken Card Tournament, not to be confused with Tekken Card Challenge on the wonderswan. Card Tournament has a very similar premise. You collect cards to earn different moves for each character, then use said moves in fights to progress through the game, in a sort of rock paper scissors format. I personally never got into this game that much, as I was hoping to just have an actual Tekken game to play, but I guess this was probably the best way to play a fighting game on a mobile phone, because I couldn't think of anything worse than trying to string together a combo on a bloody touch screen. I'm going to have to give Card Tournament a 5 out of 10, just based on the fact I can't really remember much about it. But again, it doesn't seem like a bad concept. Next up is Tekken Arena, and yeah, I really don't have much to say as I've never really played this one. But from what I can see, it's not something I would have spent more than 5 minutes on. It has that free to play mobile game charm about it, and what I mean by charm is that thing that seems to be riddled with different types of currency and energy levels that you need to keep topped up to play the game by either waiting, watching ads or spending money, which I think we can all agree is a waste of everyone's time. From what I've seen, there seems to be a lot of going on and a pretty lengthy progression system, ways of customising and upgrading your character, and a pretty unique art style, but yeah, what lets it down is that old annoying trope in mobile games of just trying to monetise every little thing in the game, to the point that it's just a glorified ad. So for that reason alone, and the fact it doesn't really offer much in terms of gameplay, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 10. The final game I'm going to talk about today is Tekken Mobile, which released in 2018, and again, just like the other games, it's no longer available to play. I do remember playing it though, and I remember it being similar to the Mortal Kombat and Injustice mobile games in terms of gameplay. It was a pretty simple system. You tap the right side of the screen to attack, left side to block, and these cards in the bottom left to pull off combos and other special moves. Yeah, it has the same problems that Tekken Arena had with those different types of currency and energy levels you need to keep topped up to be able to play, but at least the gameplay is a little bit better. It had its own art style and arenas, and from what I can remember it was updated pretty often, but it's a shame it was pulled from stores and that we don't have any sort of alternative Tekken game to the main series. I'll give Tekken Mobile a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it was riddled with those horrible microtransactions that we see in other mobile games, and also in Tekken Arena, but at least they tried this time in terms of gameplay. The one thing I've thought about while making this video is how much of a shame it is that we probably never see games like this again. When you think of it, there really isn't any need to make a Tekken game specifically for mobile or portable consoles, considering cloud gaming is getting better over time, and I'm sure the Switch 2 will probably have some sort of port of Tekken 8. The days of weird and wonderful ports and spin-offs look like they're over, which makes going back to these games all that more fun. I'm going to keep this outro quite short. The Saints Row the third video will be coming out quite soon. It's not going to be the next video you see on this channel. I want something out specifically at the start of June, so that'll be up next. Then the Saints Row the third video, then some other ideas. I mean, it's a good thing I've got loads of ideas for the channel, so it's quite exciting these next few months coming ahead. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, keep up to date with the channel. I do post on the sort of the community part quite a bit just to keep people updated, because I know I don't really update people on social media like Facebook or Twitter. So yeah, if you need to keep up to date with the channel, best place to be is here. Subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I update it fairly regularly. There is some really good stuff coming to the channel in the months ahead. I am finally motivated to make videos again. I know I went through a bit of a slump a couple of weeks back, but I am finally back now, ready, motivated, and ultimately that's down thanks to you guys, everyone who's subscribed, liked the videos, comments, everyone who interacts with this channel in any way, shape or form has just helped me, motivated me to carry on doing it. I have really enjoyed making these videos the past few months, so I want to carry on. I want to keep doing it. I want to keep trying to stick to a schedule, which is every week, which is very hard with these types of videos, but I am trying. But yeah, that's it. That's all I've got to say really. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It's the best place to keep up to date with the channel. Next week or sometime in the next week, I will have another video out. I'm not going to say what it is yet. It's not a massive secret. It's just I want to surprise, a little bit of a surprise, because it's just been Tekken and Saints Row, and it's neither of those, so it's going to be a bit of a surprise. But to keep up to date with that, please subscribe. So yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.